During the mid-1950s, a man by the name of Albert Ellis had developed a particular branch of cognitive behavioral therapy known as rational emotive therapy. One of his students, Maxie Maltzby Jr., took Ellis's approach and changed it and developed what has been called rational behavior therapy. He did this in the mid-1970s, and it's a more direct method of dealing with a patient's emotional state than Ellis's. And it has 5 steps to it, and we want to go over those 5 steps now. So in rational behavior therapy, step 1, the patient is asked to do self-analysis. In this step, the patient is going to gain intellectual insights into what they believe the problem is. So they're just looking to rationally think through what they think the problems are. Not solve them, but just self-analysis. What do I think is wrong intellectually? In step 2, the therapist helps the patient work on changing their actions, changing their behavior reflected or based upon the self-analysis of step 1. So the patient says, I believe this is the problem I have. And so step 2, the therapist would say, then what do we need to change in order to help you deal with the problem that you have thought about in step 1? So they begin by analyzing, then changing behavior, and then in step 3, they work on integrating the emotions along with the new behavior patterns. So prior to this, part of the problem was not only the behavior, but the emotions associated with that behavior. The behavior's been changed, but now there's a dissonance between the behavior and the emotion. So in step 3, they work to integrate the patient's emotions with the changed behavior. And so we'll call this changing the emotional state. Now in step 4, they want to help the patient develop a consistent use of step 3. The patient may be able to occasionally integrate their emotional state with their changing actions, but you're wanting to get them to associate these two together habitually. And so you rationalize the feelings promoted through steps 1 through 3 into patterns that show consistent emotional insights. So they continue with these two things related together based on what they did in step 1, and they get an a consistent emotional state here. So we'll call this consistent emotional insights. And then finally, in the final step, after they've self-analyzed, changed their actions, worked to bring their emotions in line with those changed actions, and produced a consistent emotional insight into those changed actions and emotions, then step 5 is to habitually practice the changed behavior that has been integrated with the emotional state so that it becomes part of the new pattern for the patient. Basically, you've worked to bring about the changes that they've needed, but you've done it using these 5 steps. Define what the problem is through self-analysis, change your actions, bring your emotions into line with those changed actions, consistently work on bringing those emotions into line with those changed actions, and then habituate the new practices so that it becomes a part of who the person is from then on. Once again, this is rational behavior therapy as it was developed by Maxie Maltzby Jr. in the mid-1970s, Maltzby being the student of Albert Ellis, who had, prior to this, brought about rational emotive therapy, a branch of cognitive behavioral therapy. It was a better form than Ellis's because it took a more direct route in dealing with the patient's emotional state than that which was used before.